As you know, yesterday we have started the structure of a nucleotide, right? I told you a nucleotide is made up of three things: pentose sugar, and if I'm talking about the DNA, then this sugar is deoxyribose sugar. The structure of this we have done, right? Second one was nitrogenous base, and in case of DNA, these are of four types: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. And third is phosphate group. These three things together, it results in the formation of a nucleotide. Suppose here I got one nucleotide and here I got second nucleotide. So what will happen? These nucleotides, now they will bond. They will make bond, and in the similar way, the nucleotides, they will keep on making the bond, and it results in the formation of a chain. Am I clear? Suppose one nucleotide is there. It will make bond with second nucleotide. It will make bond with third, then fourth, and in the similar way, there will be the formation of a polynucleotide in which many nucleotides are attached. And how are they bonded? This we have discussed yesterday, the name of the bonds, everything we have done. Clear? Now today we shall study about the two helices that are present in the DNA. Basically, Watson and Crick, they were the scientists, and they have given the double helix structure of DNA. They said that DNA is made up of two polynucleotide chains, and how one polynucleotide chain is formed, we have done. Clear? Now let us talk about the common characteristic features of the DNA. So, first feature, as I told you, the DNA is made up of two polynucleotide chains. Now just see. This is the first polynucleotide chain, suppose. Now here I am drawing the second one. Clear? Now just see. Like this. First polypeptide chain and second polypeptide chain. So DNA is made up of how many polypeptide chains? Two. Now, second characteristic feature, if I talk about the backbone. As you know, the DNA is polynucleotide. Okay, if I talk about the structure of a nucleotide, as you know, we are having phosphate group, pentose sugar, and nitrogenous bases. So out of these three, here in this strand, just see, this strand is made up of basically two things. One is sugar. Here I am talking about the DNA, so the sugar will be deoxyribose sugar plus phosphate group. So basically these two things, they are making the helix, this strand. So these two, that is the deoxyribose sugar and the phosphate group, they are known as the backbone of the DNA. While the third thing, that is nitrogenous base. As you know, in nucleotide we are having three things: sugar, then we are having phosphate group, and then we are having nitrogenous bases. These two make up the backbone of the DNA, that is, they are present in the helix. Okay. Now, the nitrogenous bases, these are project inwards like this. Suppose here I am having one nitrogenous base A. As I told you, there are four types in case of DNA: adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine. Suppose here I am having A. Now, in this second strand, this is the third characteristic feature. The second strand that is complementary at that particular place, the adenine, it will always bond with thymine. And how many bonds will be present in between them? 2. So adenine will always bond with thymine. So here if I am having adenine, then at the second strand I must be having thymine. So if we know the base sequence of one strand, then we can find out the base sequence of the second strand. So if A is there, then here T will be present. And in between these two we are having hydrogen bond. How many? 2. Am I clear? Now let us talk about the second. C always pairs with G. And they used to make how many bonds? 3. Suppose here if I am having C, then here I must be having G. And in between these two we are having how many bonds? 3 hydrogen bond. Am I clear? In this way it will keep on going. Now one thing, this is known as, just see here, this A double bond T, this is known as a nitrogenous base pair. Pair you understand too. This is a nitrogenous base pair. Clear? Now okay, so now what is the meaning of antipolarity? If one strand is 5' to 3', then second strand will be from 3' to 5'. If 5' end of one strand is there, then there will be 3' end of the second strand. Now here comes the question, what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of 5'? What is the meaning of 3'? Now just see. Let me unwind it. It will be like this now. Earlier it was coiled. Now let me unwind it. 5' to 3' and 3' to 5'. Now what is the meaning of this? Just see. As you know, this strand, this line basically, it is made up of sugar and phosphate, and the nitrogenous bases are present inside. Now let me make the sugar and phosphate here only to make you understand. Okay. Suppose I am having the sugar. Okay, and with this sugar I am having phosphate group. And I told you yesterday, the phosphate group is attached at 5th carbon. So at the 5th carbon of this sugar, the phosphate group is attached. Clear? And at the first place, I will be having the nitrogenous base, and the nitrogenous base will be present projected inward. Suppose I am having A. Am I clear? I am having sugar. At first end, I am having nitrogenous base, and at the 5th end, I am having phosphate group. Now you know the phosphate group of one, this is one nucleotide. Now the phosphate group of one nucleotide will be attached at the 3' carbon of the second nucleotide. Am I clear? And at the 3' carbon we are having OH group. So now just see here. I am making the second group. Again sugar is there. With this sugar, a phosphate group is attached at the 5th end. And here I am having another nitrogenous base. This is one nucleotide. And this is second nucleotide. These are two nucleotides. And the nucleotides, you know, they are joined by phosphodiester bond. The bond is present between the 5' end and the 3' end of the next sugar, like this. Now if you will see here, phosphate group is being attached, but the OH group is free. As at the last, OH group is free. Now let me move ahead. Let me draw the third nucleotide. Again I am having sugar. With this sugar, phosphate group is attached. Now this phosphate group will attach with this sugar like this. Am I clear? And here I'll be having the nitrogenous base, suppose C. This is the third nucleotide. Now, let me make the fourth nucleotide. Again here I'll be having the sugar, phosphate group, nitrogenous base, suppose this time I'm having T. And here the sugar is attached with the phosphate like this. This is the third nucleotide. This is the fourth. Wait. And this is the fourth nucleotide like this. I have drawn 4 nucleotides. Now just see. As you know, your DNA helix is linear, means the ends will be free. This end is free. This end is also free. It means the sugar of this end. Here you can see the phosphate group. At the 5' end, the phosphate group of the sugar is free. And at the 3' end, the COH group is free. So basically the end at which the phosphate group is free. Listen, our DNA strand, it is linear. Surely it will be free at both the ends. And surely at one end there will be phosphate group, and at the other end there will be free OH group. This will happen surely because the bonding is taking place like this only, that I am telling you. So at one end, suppose I am having free OH group, and the end where the free OH group is present, basically I can say where the sugar having the free OH group is present, that is 3' end. And the other end which is having the free phosphate group, that will be 5' end. So here as the free phosphate group is there, as you can see the phosphate group is not attached with anything. So here it is the 5' end. And here the OH group is free. So this will be 3' end. Now here 3' end means the free group is OH. And 5' means here the free group is phosphate. Am I clear? What is the meaning of polarity? The two strands, they are anti-parallel. Clear? If here the phosphate group is free, then here OH group will be free at the third end. And if here the 3H group is, the third carbon is having the free OH group, then here at the 5th position the phosphate group will be free, it will not be bonded. Am I clear? Now, next property of our nucleotide chain is, let me talk about pitch. With that you can understand the property easily. Now what do you mean by pitch? Pitch means the length of a complete turn. Now what is the meaning of this statement? Just see. Suppose I am drawing a DNA helix. Now just see. Here, from here till here, this is one complete turn, and the length of this complete turn is known as pitch. Am I clear? The length of one complete turn is known as pitch. Now let me talk about the nitrogenous bases. As you know, the nitrogenous bases will be project inwards. Suppose here I am having A, there will be T, that you know. Here if I am having C, there will be G. Here if I am having G, there will be C. Here if I am having A, there will be T. Here if I am having T, there will be A, like this. Clear? Again in the second strand, A, then here will be present T. C, then here will be present G. G, then here will be present C. A, then here will be present T. and T, then here will be present A. Clear? Like this. Now if you will count the number of base pairs, this is one base pair, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10. Okay, then it was find out experimentally that the number of base pairs in a complete term, it came out to be 10. Am I clear? The number of base pairs, it came out to be 10. So if I have to find the distance between the two consecutive base pair, that is the distance between these two. Am I clear? Distance between these two. The distance is equal. Okay. With the diagram, a little bit confusion is there, but the distance is equal. Now, if I talk, you know the complete length of this turn, one turn, it is 3.4 nanometer. This we have find out experimentally. Now, number of base pairs is 10. 1, 2, generally it is 10. Number of base pair is 10. Now, you know by applying the mass, the total distance is 3.4 and number is 10. Now what will be the distance between one nitrogenous base pair? Means what will be this distance? Am I clear? Or I can say what is this distance? It is equal again, I am saying. Now how we will find it out? Number of base pair is this and total length of one turn is this. So basically we can just count like this. Length of one turn is equal to number of base pair, that is 10, multiplied by the distance between two consecutive base pair, that we have to find out. This is 3.4 nanometer. If I convert it in meter, it will be 3.4 multiplied by 10 to the power 9 meter. This is equal to 10 multiplied by distance between two consecutive base pair. Now let me divide it. Okay. 0.34 into 10 to the power minus 9 meter, or rather I can say it is 0.34 nanometer. Am I clear? So the distance between the consecutive base pair, it is 0.34 nanometer. Now let us talk about the Chargaff's rule, what he said. Basically, this rule states that in a DNA molecule, the number of purines, they are equal to number of pyrimidines. Purine, you know, adenine and guanine. So basically adenine plus guanine, this is equal to thymine plus cytosine. Clear? Or rather I can also say the amount of adenine is always equal to the amount of thymine, and the amount of guanine is always equal to the amount of cytosine. This is a rule which was given by the Chargaff. Okay. Let us talk about central dogma. What do you mean by this term? Basically, this means how the genetic information flows inside our body. You know that there is transfer of genetic information. How? This we have to study under this. Okay, this will let us know how the genetic information transfers. So basically, as you know, the DNA, it is the carrier of genetic information. So we shall start from the DNA. Firstly, how the information is being transferred by the formation of proteins. You know, if I talk about the DNA, then functional segment of DNA that can code for a particular protein is gene. So basically how the information is being transferred by the formation of proteins. The DNA will make proteins. Whatever the information will be present in the DNA, that particular type of protein will be coded by that particular gene which is present in the DNA. Am I clear? So firstly, basically we have to study how the proteins are being formed from the DNA. Firstly, there is process of transcription. And by the process of transcription, there is formation of mRNA, that is messenger RNA. Okay, so first step that will lead to the formation of proteins. It is transcription, that is formation of mRNA from the DNA. Now after that, there will be translation, and in this process there is formation of proteins from the mRNA. Okay, so transcription means formation of messenger RNA from the DNA, and then translation means formation of proteins from the mRNA. How the whole process we have to study in detail. We shall study how the transcription is taking place, how translation is taking place. Now one more thing, as I told you, when mRNA is formed from DNA, it is transcription. Now what is happening in many viruses? Instead of DNA, they are having RNA as genetic material. Now what are they doing? Like we are making RNA from DNA. But what are they doing? From the RNA, they are making DNA. Am I clear? In some viruses where RNA is the genetic material, they are doing the reverse of this. Like in eukaryotic cells, we are making mRNA from the DNA. But what they are doing, they are making DNA from the RNA. This is the reverse of transcription, right? So it is named as reverse transcription. Clear? One by one we shall study about all these. We shall study what is transcription, translation, about their whole process. Okay, thank you.